Welcome back to another episode of Recipe for Success, where we navigate the complex world of self-publishing. In this episode, we have the absolute pleasure of speaking with Tessa Arias, a professionally trained chef turned successful cookbook author and founder of the popular blog HandleTheHeat.com. In this episode, we explore Tessa's journey from creating viral cookie posts and ebooks to self-publishing a best-selling hardcover cookbook. Get ready for an insightful discussion on the joys of creating content, the challenges of self-publishing during a pandemic, and the power of a clear vision for success. We cover a lot in this episode, so let's dive in. Hi, Tessa. I'm so excited to have you here with me on Creatively Speaking.
Hey, Leanna, I'm so excited to be here again.
I know this is the second time that we've recorded. What I really want to talk about on this episode is about cookbooks, self-publishing, and I know that you've kind of experienced all the things. So I want to make sure that we talk about that on this episode today. But before we dive in, I'd love for you just to tell people who have not met you before a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Sure. So I'm a professionally trained chef and cookbook author. I've done the self-publishing route as well as gone through a traditional publishing house. And I'm the founder of the website HandleTheHeat.com, which started as a hobby and has it grew into my full-time business and then into a brand with millions of followers on our various platforms. We've posted over 1,000 recipes, articles, videos, sharing homemade baking tips, tricks with an emphasis on the science of baking to empower you to enter the kitchen with confidence. And just the visuals is really where we focus a lot of our time and energy into showcasing this is what happens when you use baking soda versus baking powder to make baking fun and approachable, but also to understand that scientific aspect so you can get consistent results.
Well, your history is very impressive, and I've been very fortunate to have witnessed a lot of the growth over the past, I'd say, has it been like 5 or 6 years now, I think?
Yeah, I feel like we got connected in the online marketing world maybe in like 20, what was it, 15?
Yeah, I think that sounds about right. And yeah, gosh, that seems so
It's been a long time.
it seems like yesterday, but at the same time, it seems like forever ago. So, but we've been very fortunate to see the growth that you've had, and it's so cool to watch you because you really do you've always had a vision for the business, and I can see it coming to fruition, which has been it's been an honor in many different ways. But if you are new to Tessa, we also recorded a interview with her back in, I think that was 4 years ago. And that was before you self-published. You were already a published author. And in that episode, you talked about creating an ebook from your viral cookie post that you had, just like what you said, showing the different types of cookies with different ingredients, which went viral. So that's where we touched on first. So if you want to hear her story about that, definitely listen to that episode. But something that you said in that episode is kind of a little foreshadowing to what we're going to talk about now, because you had said, oh, and maybe at some point this will become a published cookbook, like a real cookbook as opposed to just an ebook. So we were very fortunate to work with you on that. And I would love to just kind of hear, thinking back at that time, like what your thought process was when you knew you were ready to take that ebook to the next level into a beautiful hardcover book.
So we had just gotten so many requests for that ebook to be turned into a hard copy physical cookbook that people could have in their kitchens and thumb through. And after so many requests coming in, I started to think, okay, maybe this could actually happen. And maybe I don't have to be a millionaire to invest in this process. I had had a not so great experience with the traditional publishing model previously, and I knew exactly what I wanted. I knew exactly what my audience wanted for this book and this concept, that I just wanted to take full control over it. And honestly, Leanna, this book wouldn't have happened without you. You had done my branding and the website. years ago, which we still use the branding to this day. But the idea of self-publishing felt so daunting and overwhelming. And the more that I spoke about the idea and the more the idea kind of took hold in my brain and wouldn't let me go, the more you kind of slowly started to chip away at my doubts and fears and sense of overwhelm because you had done it for other people. You were so well connected in the industry. You knew how to make all the pieces fall into place, how to find an editor, a printer. Your design skills, I knew, would put the concept in my brain into reality and translate all the information I wanted to convey in the book in a visual, engaging, beautiful way. And so, honestly, I think it was just knowing that I had a partner in the process that could guide me through is what made me feel ready for it. And just even being able to know some of the numbers you were able to account for me of like these are maybe what you would look at depending on the size and length of the book and the photography budget, and like there's so many things that go into it, so it does take a lot of planning and preparation, and having that strong vision for what you want the final product to be is really what kept me going. Just imagining people opening the package with the book in the mailbox and it sitting on their, kitchen island and their kids picking out which cookies they wanted their, mom or dad to make that day or to make it all together as a family. Like that vision is really what kept me going through the process when it was challenging. And at the end of the day, it was one of the most rewarding, both personally and professionally experiences that I've ever had.
Oh, that's so great to hear. And I love seeing the cookbook. Even before I got onto this call with you, my son said, tell Tessa I said hi and
Hi,
that we
Nathan.
love her cookies. We made a bunch of cookies from that cookbook for Christmas this year, him and his girlfriend. So he's gonna, if he listens to this, he'll be a little annoyed with me, but they had a blast. They got to pick out all their cookies. And so I will attest to one thing that is definitely in this book is that I am not an avid baker. I'm not an avid cook, or I'm not a chef in any which way or form. But, even just using that content, that book with the kids, like they loved it. They were able to follow. And we did some pretty difficult, in my opinion, recipes. And we followed them to the T in terms of making sure that we had, we read them the day before, we made certain dough the day before, we were really on it. And I have to be honest, the cookies were amazing. They turned out so good. But it was a pleasure working on that with you because you had that vision. So you came to me, it wasn't just, didn't just kind of formulate. You did have this vision of what you wanted it to look and feel like. And you also came to us a little bit further than a lot of our cookbook clients do. So you came to us with pretty much the full manuscript. There was nothing that you were filling in. And if it was anything, it was little things that it might have been an intro or something like that. But you really did come with all of the content. And your book is unique in that the first section of it is all about really the science behind baking. And so you don't even really get into the cookie part until probably about halfway through the book, which is pretty it's a different model for a cookbook. So most of them don't have that much unless it is for dinner, like certain types of cuisine that have a lot of techniques and things that you need to learn. But what I loved about it was that our editors were able to help take what you had put together, and even I think we made some adjustments as to the organization of it so that it did become, that first section was really solid about the techniques. And it seems like that's been something that your readers have really resonated with as well.
Oh, absolutely. I think that that entire first section of the book was inspired by that viral article. That the through line of it all is the visual science component of, you don't have to understand the molecular chemistry. I dropped out of chem class in 10th grade. Like I think it's boring too. And so having the visuals that, you could follow along with your kids, they learn a bit about science and some, cooking and baking skills in the kitchen. But the first section of the book really was our key differentiating factor. And it is what we've become known for. And so to be able to harness that into something that's cohesive and easy to follow and approachable, and something that even you could do with your teenage son who probably has a million distractions, and
Yes.
it's difficult to figure out how to translate all of that into a cookbook, the confines of a cookbook. And so that was the part I was most apprehensive about. And it was really interesting working with you, Leanna, because I know you don't bake that often, but you do have an appreciation for food and you've worked in the food media industry for so long, that I almost felt like it was a perfect combination of skill and also something that maybe felt a little bit more novel to you because you looked at it with a fresh perspective. I had been looking at this content and thinking about it endlessly for hours and hours and hours that I wasn't seeing it as clearly. It wasn't fresh to me. So having other, and that's why I don't think I could have ever done this process without you, without an editor. Like, you have to have a team of people. It's worth the investment because they show you things that you didn't think about. They're coming with different perspectives, backgrounds, skills, and it just makes the concept of the book so much stronger so that your reader enjoys it all the more.
Yeah, absolutely. And I do feel like it is this collaborative effort. Even when clients come to us and different authors, I always look at the content, and coming from a design standpoint, we have the editorial side, but even just coming from design and understanding, it about charts and graphs and how to organize things and how to pull things together, it really is something that I enjoy when I get to receive these products. But I think also, just like you had mentioned, and I say this to everyone, which is, again, I am not a person that is in the kitchen all the time. So I actually am a good person to, when I receive the content and I'm working on the design, to make it as clean and simple, clear, but also beautiful at the same time, because there are going to be people who have less knowledge than I do about food and cooking, and they also need these recipes to be laid out in a really clear format. I think that's definitely important.
I think what I also learned was the more advanced readers who maybe already have some skills and techniques, they also appreciate the beauty of a gorgeous design because it's more enjoyable to flip through a book. And I think a lot of us are sick of our screens. We're sick of everything being on our phones and looking at recipes, and there's annoying ads or notifications or distractions. And so to just like sit back at your kitchen island or dining table or on the couch and thumb through a beautiful cookbook is so relaxing and enjoyable that, of course, the content is important, but the design needs to be there too. And the photography, like, it all has to come together to make for an enjoyable experience and something that sells well and gets you a return on your investment and builds that loyalty and that community that follows you and just engages with you in that deeper, more meaningful way because a part of you lives in their home in the form of your book.
Yeah. And one of the things I love working with clients like yourself is just like you mentioned, like the beautiful photography, like these beautiful elements that you bring into the person's world as they're looking through these cookbooks. And that is something that I have found, and I think I've said it a few times, which is that a lot of, even some of the traditionally published cookbooks that I've done in the past, some of them don't even have as beautiful a photography as I get when I work with a, content creator like yourself. So it's like that attention to detail that I think, aside from this high quality content that you're already creating, but then on top of it, these beautiful elements and aspects, and, working with you on the design and the brand, like we were able to almost bring it to life with this book because everything is so flat. So, we had these like copper elements in your branding, and we were like, how about some copper paper? And how about, pulling these things in? So I am glad that people appreciate that whole, experience of actually taking in the whole beauty of the product that you're spending all that time and money and energy to create.
Oh, absolutely. And it's a different way of operating as a content creator too, because you're used to getting immediate feedback when you publish content on social media or on your blog, which is great because if you've been doing any bit of that for any length of time, then you start to figure out what people will gravitate to, what resonates with your audience, what images make a powerful effect on somebody's like subconscious, where that image just stays in their brain and they think about it and they have to make that
I
recipe.
have to.
Um,
Anything with
But
peanut butter.
yes, agreed. But it's different when it comes to the written and like the physical written form is so different because you have to think about it from a longevity's perspective. It's not just what's hot in the moment, what's Instagram, serving up for people. It's what will I be proud of in 5 or 10 years that feels like it will stand the test of time and deserves a place in people's, homes and on their bookshelves. And it's a different way of operating. Even writing content for a book is different than writing for a blog post where you're worried about SEO. It's like different muscles to flex. But I found that process, although sometimes challenging, it was very creatively satisfying because there's more room for creativity than oftentimes on social media or blogs where you're following the algorithm rules and you're catering to the trends at the moment. With a book, you have more leeway to express a different side of your creativity.
That's a great point too. I mean, it really does become an extension of you personally. It is part of the brand as well, but just like you said, you're able to actually bring in more things that you find that you're missing just from the day-to-day of content creation.
Mhm.
Um, but I want to bring up the fact that we worked on this book probably during the most challenging time that people have had ever in our lifetime. So we were working on this during 2020. That was the grunt of the work, the bulk of the work that we were doing. I think you actually, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think we actually did the pre-sales November 2020. And then the book,
We it was November 2019. We did a pre-sale campaign
yeah.
and used some of the revenue generated to fund some of the initial investment. And it was crazy because like I wasn't even in studio with a photographer while she was shooting the book. Like we did everything virtually remote from a socially isolated distance. Like it's crazy to think about. And then of course in some ways it all worked out because baking was such a hot topic during the pandemic and everyone was stuck at home with their their
Yeah.
kids and having to figure out something to do. And so in that way it really took off. But it was an interesting experience.
Yeah. And I think what's it like, I feel like that time opened up so much, obviously, for food bloggers in general. I mean, everyone was doing, at home, you had to cook. So that became a thing. But um on top of that, just you saying like a virtual photo shoot, like things like that, I think are a lot more normalized now. It happens a lot more. I know we know fellow food blogger and friend Ashley, who her whole cookbook was also remote. Like, so it was, styled and shot and everything. And I think that that's amazing that that time has allowed us to kind of explore these different options, especially when it comes to content creating like this.
Oh, absolutely. And especially if you don't live in a big metro area, like you're so close to New York City, you have access to some of the greatest food photographers, stylists, writers, editors, all right there. I don't live anywhere near a big like media city. So to find people to work with locally is so challenging at times. So it's wonderful that everyone has that flexibility now. You don't have to live in a giant city to find talent to work with, to collaborate with on your book concept or anything else you're doing. But it is funny because the photographer that Ashley used is actually like 15 minutes up the road from me, and I work with her as well. And so I was more involved, like I was on studio watching what was happening more with Ashley's book than I think she ever was because I just work with her as well. So that was kind of funny.
What a perfect person to have on site for your shoot is Tessa. That would be like, how much better could it get? Oh my
I know I
gosh.
got to eat some of the leftovers
I was
too, which
gonna
was
say, to eat some of those
very nice.
leftovers. Oh my goodness. Drooling. It was drooling every time she would send little snapshots of things. And we're actually going to interview Joni. So I'm excited to
Oh,
chat with her.
cool.
I've never met her. So I'm thrilled to get to meet her soon. But what kept you going during that kind of weird time? Like how did you stay focused on it? I guess, because there's a lot of things that could have gone anyway at that point.
Yeah. There's nothing else to do. So my boyfriend and I were long distance at the time. He was working at an emergency room in Queens where the COVID response was
Oh, okay.
insane. It was awful and crazy. And so he was gone physically and the struggle was real, obviously, as everyone can imagine. And so I was just kind of by myself with my dog at home bored. So there wasn't a whole lot else going on. And it obviously felt isolating at times, but I kept a really consistent routine every day. I was really consistent with every morning. The things that make me feel good obviously are going to be different for everyone. For me, it's journaling first thing in the morning, getting my thoughts out. Oftentimes, when I'm working on a big creative project like a book, it's all the ideas that somehow developed in my brain overnight while I slept. And so I get them all down first thing in the morning. So they're all out of my head and I can work through them. I'll meditate, I'll work out, and then I'll get started with my work day and try to batch computer days with kitchen days, put them on different days of the week. So it feels like similar work is being done in a more effective, efficient manner. But I think the most important thing I learned from that period was just taking fun breaks, like doing something, going on a walk, playing with a dog, watching a silly video or a stupid reality show, like just to take the pressure off always feeling like you're having to work or produce, or if some idea is not really, locking into place in your mind, just taking a step back and doing something else. And what do you know? The next time you return to the page, it all feels like it's tumbling out of you because there's some, inner part of your brain that was working away at it while you were showering, or I would take a bath in the middle of the day sometimes. Like it was, there were no rules.
That was good because, like during that time, we were very fortunate because, we lost all of our big corporate clients at that time, which is totally fine because I learned many years ago not to put all my eggs in one basket. So we had diversified since then. So we actually were very fortunate in that, we stayed busy, but we also had clients like yourself who is almost like you're ready to go. Like it's like, okay, there's something like there's a lull here that's a forced lull, but it's not really, but it's forced. And what can I do to do something to make when we get out of this better? I feel like all of our digital clients really were ready to like hit the ground running on something big, which was exciting for us because it just kept us from thinking about everything that was happening outside of, my four walls.
Oh, absolutely. And that was also like luck in large part that we happened to exist in an industry that
Yeah.
was prepared for remote work and also was a topic matter that people suddenly became very interested in. And the interesting part also is for me as well is we make a lot of our revenue off of the advertisements on our website. And although advertisement, like the CPMs dropped dramatically because suddenly no one knew what was happening. We didn't know what was going to happen with the economy. Everything was out of stock everywhere. So why would advertisers promote something that they can't keep in stock anymore to begin with? So that was really scary. But then my traffic like tripled overnight, essentially March 2020. And so it kind of evened out in a sense, but it was very nerve wracking. And as you've known, one of my primary business goals for years now has been to better diversify our revenue streams, to rely less on the advertisements. And even today, as we record this in 2023, next year, a lot of the browsers will be rid of the browser cookie. So that could affect our advertising income. So continuing to focus on other revenue streams has been a primary objective for us. And that's exactly what the book ended up becoming. I was just looking at the numbers earlier today. And what's funny is we published the book officially for purchase. All the pre-order orders were fulfilled and everyone else in the public could buy the book in, I think it was September of 2020. And we sold out in less than 48 hours of the entire inventory of books that I had ordered. And that happened again and again. And obviously I was ordering the minimums because I was terrified of putting so much capital. It was scary, especially in pandemic times. Like there's a lot on the line. You don't know what's going to happen. But clearly there was a demand for this book. And I think the audience that I had built, the quality of content that we had created with the book, and then the differentiating factor with that science of baking content that makes it stand out, and the timing, it all came together really nicely for us. But we have sold, I think, just over 12,000 copies to date, direct to consumer with no distribution. We just recently, in the last couple of weeks, have actually put the book on Amazon. So that's been a very big learning curve. So I can't really share much about how that's going, except to say a lot
It's
of people
there.
shop on Amazon and we're getting sales without doing much. So that's been awesome. But we probably would have sold more copies had we been able to keep the book in stock more consistently, which is a good problem to have at the end of the day. We experienced delays in printing and delays at the ports when we were importing the books in, with all the craziness that was happening with the pandemic. But through it all and all the challenges and new skills that we had to learn to navigate e-commerce and producing a physical product and everything, it's been, again, like one of the greatest accomplishments and achievements professionally, personally. It has elevated our brand in a different way that I don't think anything else would have gotten us that kind of result. And our audience loves the book and they're waiting for the next one. So it's been a really positive experience all around.
That's amazing. And yet there were definitely things that we had to maneuver. And you were, in full transparency, one of the first clients for us to take through that whole process. And, we had, like you said, we were hit at the time we were producing this, we had the shipping issues, we had delays, once we did get a warehouse, we had those delays and all of those little nuances, little things that we had you figured out, especially too on your side, to make it work. I want people to understand that there's more than just producing the beautiful cookbook. There's all these other little things that go along with it, and you've been able to manage all of that as well. You kind of have to, now that you have this product, but I do think it's kind of set you up for success in other ways, because since the book, you've produced a few other products. So I think is that true? Or am I sort of making that up? But has it helped you with these
Oh, yes.
additional items?
I think it's been fascinating. I felt like the entire experience was like a micro MBA and learning manufacturing, fulfillment, delivery, and marketing. Marketing for conversion is completely different than marketing for brand awareness. And learning that as a skill was probably one of the most difficult parts. I had a lot of mindset things to get over. I'd been used to offering our content for free. To ask for people to pay for something was a difficult transition to make. I mean, it's relative, but it's not that much money. A cookbook doesn't cost that much money, but it costs more than the books on Amazon because we didn't have the mass resources that a traditional publisher does. So I am asking people to spend a little bit more money than they typically would on a book. So figuring out how to translate the value, the benefits, the transformation people are going to experience if they buy the book and go through it. It was like a crash course in all the things business related, but the skills, the insights I gained into my audience, how to communicate with them, how to get them to take action, are invaluable. And I use those skills now for launching other products, both physical and digital, as well as when we team up with sponsored clients too, because they see I have sold my own products, I can sell yours too. So it really has a kind of like a rising tide effect on all the revenue streams of our business. And when people invest in a book with you, they think of you more. They come back to you when they have a special event or a birthday or a party that they want to bring cupcakes to. Like I've heard that time and again that now we're the first, brand that comes to mind whenever somebody needs a baking recipe. So that is invaluable. You can't quite put a number on what that kind of loyalty and connection brings you both monetarily and just from a professional, personal fulfillment of feeling like you're not just speaking to crickets, like
Yeah. And
it's not an echo chamber anymore.
right. And you've put in that work, and you could probably, I'm not even well, you could probably teach a whole course on that, Tessa, for people, because honestly, it is there. Like I said, there's so much more to it than just creating the book. And, we have some clients that do come to us that they might not even have a platform yet. And it's really hard for them to get the sales that they need to actually turn a profit. And that's our goal for each client, is to how can that, how can this work for you, not just you creating this product. We got to do some fun marketing things too. I thought it was really fun when, with the first launch, we had the little QR codes, and
which is your idea, Leanna. And I have to say, so Leanna had this great idea of putting a sticker, a custom printed sticker on the packaging of every book on the exterior of the packaging, so that when somebody got their package delivered, they could scan the QR code and it would generate a little. It was basically a GIF that
Yeah.
rotated through recipes of what should I make first, screenshot, and it will land on the recipe you should make first. And I have to tell you, Leanna, like there was a few orders where the warehouse missed stickering, like they missed a sticker or their husband opened it and they threw the box away and the sticker got thrown away. People were pissed. Like if they missed their sticker, they were so upset because people were posting the sticker and the result that they got recommended on which recipe to bake first on social media. And it felt like FOMO when people weren't getting their stickers. And so it was super fun and effective, just experiential marketing. And the sticker that we ended up producing, I have to say, is like that the most high quality sticker because Joe puts stickers on his water bottle
Mhm.
whenever he gets a whatever, like he
Is it
buys a
still
new
there?
bicycle. It is the most pristine of all of the stickers, and it's 3 years old now on his water bottle. Like it has stood the test of time, and that water bottle gets tossed around, used and abused. So
That is so funny. And you know, we had that, those are the things that I enjoy working with you is that you are open to those ideas because we're like, what about this, Tessa? And would you like to try this? And you know, it's fun because it goes back to that collaborative effort that we enjoy with the clients and working with people like you. And so it's been awesome. But what was your decision to then try to get the book on Amazon? Because self-fulfilling your products, obviously that has got to take a lot on your side. You're not self-fulfilling and you have the warehouse, but at the same time there's got to be limitations.
yeah, I think the warehouse, it took a while for us to figure out, like you mentioned, the first
Yeah.
warehouse we worked with was not prepared for the volume of orders that we got overnight, essentially. So if you have any hope of that happening, be sure your warehouse can handle that volume. But we have our process for orders completely locked in. We use Shopify, we've got ShipStation plugs into our warehouse. It's very we know our margin super well. Like that whole system works. Every once in a while the post office will lose a book and we have to send a new one. Like that's about all the effort it takes at this point as far as the fulfillment of the orders goes. But what we noticed is we kind of had, I wouldn't say we've tapped out of our audience who are willing to buy the book, our current audience, because we're continuing to grow and expose ourselves to new people. But we've kind of realized we've hit a sales velocity limit. And so getting access to the insane amount of people who shop on Amazon felt like it could be worth the time and energy investment of figuring out how that process works. Now, luckily, I have somebody on my team who has experience with e-commerce, not a ton of experience with physical products, but enough that she's been able to navigate getting our book listed on Amazon, figuring out all the rules, the profit margins, and all that. And I have to say, I thought it was going to be a lot more expensive, and I thought it was going to affect our margins a lot more aggressively than it actually has so far. There are obviously fees that Amazon takes, but the amount of people on their platform specifically looking for cookbooks, it's millions. And so getting access to that marketplace is huge. And so I can't speak to it very much. We've only been doing it for a few weeks, but I will say that so what happens is you send them an inventory of your books. You can choose how many you want to send them. And then they distribute the inventory you send them to many different warehouses across the country
Oh,
to
okay.
get those fast shipping times so that you're eligible for Prime if that's the route you want to take. And so that took a long time. It took a lot longer than we anticipated because we thought, oh, we ship them to the warehouse locally in the state that we're in and we'll be good to go. It took weeks for them to ship out and like set to sell all of those books. But once they did, we started seeing orders we didn't even realize they were available for purchase. Like as is
You're
the
like,
story
oh
with
goodness.
Amazon. Yeah, I'm like, oh, we have orders coming in. I didn't even know we didn't even know that was happening. And
Oh, that's
so
how everyone dreams of. There are orders coming in my sleep. Where did they
yes,
come from? Yeah.
that literally is what happened to us. And so we were like, wait, we've gotten 50 orders without any promotion or marketing. We've not announced that we're available on Amazon. We've not linked to it anywhere. That was just from putting it on the
That's
platform. So,
amazing.
and who knows, maybe they give you an initial bump. You know, I literally could, like, there's so many conspiracy theories about the Amazon's
With
algorithms and how it all
Amazon,
works.
there is no figuring it out.
Exactly. And so it's like you're playing by their rules and it's kind of crazy. But people are familiar and comfortable with shopping on Amazon,
Mhm.
the fast shipping times, the easy returns. So it's been interesting. So we'll see where we get with that.
Yeah, I think, well, congratulations on that, because that is definitely, you're at, when we set it all up, it was like, no, let's just go this route, and it worked. And now you're just taking the next step with it. So it's awesome to see it grow. I know that I'll be sending everyone the link. So I'll be like, go shop with Tessa. It's still a hot Christmas present that we give, because it's what better gift than a cookie cookbook that's got amazing cookie recipes, and some other, obviously baking goods, but the cookies are seriously the best. But from that, you have launched a couple things. So we were fortunate to work with you on your magazine that came out, and you've since launched an apron and some other products. So again, that process that we went through, it's not the same as the process for each of those items, but I feel like they all have the same beginning, which is that idea that you've had. So is your mind when it comes to the next product, or where do you think you're going to go from this point?
Yeah, so I think as you said, the book prepared me for the other physical products much more than I would have been had I not done the book. But the physical products landscape is crazy, and we had some bad timing with the height of pandemic related increase in costs of raw materials, and even just getting products on the ship across the ocean suddenly skyrocketed in cost. So there were some challenges in that regard. So looking ahead at our potential product suite, I have so many ideas for what I'd like to do. It just requires a lot of capital and resources. And so I think just finding the right partner will be our kind of next focus, and making sure that our other revenue streams continue to grow and that we stabilize them as much as possible. Our behind the scenes workflows and processes are as effective and streamlined as possible, so that if that right partner comes along, we can jump on that and still have everything else secure and stable and making money. Because, like you said, the minute you put all your eggs in one basket, you never know what can happen, especially in these crazy times. So, just continuing to make sure that we have the resources to handle any new projects. And that's probably the one big learning lesson from the last few years is, I don't know if you're familiar with the Colby assessments. It's like a
Yes.
personality.
Yes. It's
So
like the
I'm
quick
high
start and
quick
the,
start, yeah, fact
yeah.
finder.
Yeah.
And so I'm a high quick start, as most entrepreneurs are, meaning I like get an idea, I want to take action on it immediately. I get really excited. And then the second I'm bored with it, I move on to the next thing. And so I'm really having to learn how to tamper that a little bit. Have people around me on my team and people I work with who balance that tendency of mine, so that we make sure that we are consistent and we're stabilizing at different steps along the way, and that we're not taking on too many new projects all at once, before we've really got the time and team resources to do so. Because I want to enjoy the projects. I don't want to feel complete overwhelm at all times because I've said yes to too many things simultaneously. So that's been a big learning lesson, and something I'm really trying to have more discipline around. What am we saying yes to? Whenever you say yes to something, it means you're probably going to have to say no to something else down the road. So making sure I'm balancing opportunities and our resources to actually enjoy the work with them.
Yeah, that's a really smart way to kind of approach all of that and really look at it. You've always had a very good business head on your shoulders, so I've always admired that. So you really do look things through. Yes, you are a quick start, but at the same time, in all fairness, you do really look at, like, what's going to take me to the next piece, and then what's going to take me to the next piece. So you do have a good track record of that for sure.
That's because I'm also a high fact finder, and
Oh,
my business coach told me that's like having the gas and the brakes on simultaneously, which explains
like,
a lot of like my inner turmoil. So
I love that. So one thing I did want to just touch on is the for the cookbook, we started at a certain price point. I think this kind of even it shows how you value your customers. We started at a certain price point, just like you said. It costs a lot of money to create this cookbook, but at a certain point, you paid off your investment and you decided to make some changes. So can you just talk about that, the thought around that, and how it's affecting the business in a positive way, or how it's
Yeah,
affecting it now?
definitely. So we started, the original price point, I believe, was $39, and our costs were high at the start. We had the initial investment of the design and photography and, all the resources it took to get it up and running, basically, the startup fees. And we needed to have a higher price to start to pay those down and start to recuperate those and see a profit margin. And I don't even know how long had passed, maybe a year and a half before we realized, okay, we're able to order more quantities every time we do place an order with a printer. So our cost per unit has decreased. We've paid off the initial investment of all of the photography and design and printing, like the initial cost of everything. We have enough volume of orders coming in consistently that our costs with the warehouse, we have gotten to a different tier of pricing there. And so everything kind of worked out. I met with my accountant, who's my financial advisor. That is definitely somebody you need in play. As just like an aside, if you are pursuing physical products, you need to have your books and your accounting like secure, set up. There's sales tax obligations when you start selling physical products, especially for some digital as well, depending on your location. But that's like a prerequisite. You cannot proceed without having that. She created a profit margin calculator for us to use that we continue to plug in our current numbers, and we saw our margins increase and increase and increase as the cost of living was also increasing. And
Wow.
so it started to feel like, all right, we don't have to take as big of a profit margin. And that means the book becomes accessible to a whole new group of people that previously might not have been able to afford it at the $39 price point. So we dropped the price to $29 in an effort to make the book more accessible, but also we wanted to go against the tide of what everyone was experiencing in regards to all the other goods out there and services. Everyone was sending emails telling me their prices were increasing, their service prices increasing. The cost of everything at the store was so much more expensive than it had previously been. And we were making enough money that we didn't have to take that big of a profit margin if it meant establishing a deeper connection with our audience. And so we prioritized that, and it led to great results. We saw a higher volume of sales. I think it built more trust and affinity with the brand, with our audience, and it makes us more competitive on Amazon now that we are looking at that as a selling platform as well. So it was definitely the right decision. We could have potentially continued to make a little bit more money, but I think our volume of sales would have dropped at that price point past a certain point. And so it was a little bit of a scary decision, but with my accountant like at my side looking over the numbers and getting her approval, we went with it and it worked out.
That's great. And just like you said, touching on making sure that you have a financial advisor, you have all of the tax appropriate digital products for the taxes. And it's such a complicated piece of the puzzle that you really need that support to have that done.
Yeah.
But then even just I commend you on making that choice, because I do think that it really does help build that loyalty with your audience. And, when we work with our clients, we let them know that, they should price their book appropriate for how much they are spending. I feel as though, they are not a traditional publisher. They're not absorbing that those, the traditional publisher, they're making their money back for sure per product. But, what's great is you always have that opportunity to change the price, which that I think is also the beauty of, owning your own work and, being the publisher of your own product, because even though you might set it at one point, you always have the opportunity to discount it at your own will, which I think is great.
Yeah, absolutely. And the nice thing too is that we started to sell other products. So when we bundle them together, our average cart value increases. We're spending less money on fulfilling that order because people are putting multiple orders in their cart. So it's going into one shipping unit, and we're not having to spend money on multiple different, shipping containers and multiple different postage, so There are ways to navigate that as well, but again, I really cannot reiterate how important it is to have a good financial advisor at your side who specifically is familiar with e-commerce.
E-commerce.
They need to have that experience, otherwise they're not going to know what's going on.
So, I could talk to you forever and ever and ever. But tell everyone, just give them an idea of those different products that you have so that they know what to find when they are looking at your website.
Sure. So we have obviously the Ultimate Cookie Handbook, which is the book that we've been talking about. That's on the site. If you go to handletheheat.com/cookbook, that'll direct you to our sales page and you can check that book out. We've also got our limited edition Handle the Heat magazine product, which you can bundle with the cookbook, as I was just mentioning. And so that is with our, filled with our best chocolate recipes, articles about cocoa powder, some fun stories from our readers. And we got to work with Kate Heddings, who was the former food editor of Food and Wine magazine on that project. It was a dream come true. It was so much work, but so much fun. And we also have our Handle the Apron product. We're currently out of stock of our cookie kit that we launched earlier this year, but TBD on when and if that will be restocked. But if you're interested in a digital offering, we are launching something very exciting the holiday season of this year in Q4. So come find me in September. We're going to be launching a fun challenge leading into the first digital offer of this specific kind. We've done our membership. We've put that on pause. We're putting our resources into this Q4 launch that's going to be, I hope, really, really exciting and fun and all about holiday baking. So stay tuned for that.
That's awesome. I can't wait to hear and check it all out. So in finishing that first book, are you thinking about doing another one? Have people been asking you about when's the next book coming? It's
yes.
When's the next baby coming?
Yes, we get that question multiple times a week, probably by now. And I was just actually working on the concept for what that might look like for the next book this morning, actually. So I'm starting to wrap my head. I've got a stack of books. I've been doing research on my desk right now. And so kind of in the research and development phase for that. But I've got an idea. And so it's just fleshing out what that could look like. And it's going to be a big project and a lot of work. So it's a little bit overwhelming, but yeah, I'm excited about it. So I think it'll happen probably for the next few years.
That's awesome. So self-publishing is going to be part of your repertoire, I think, in some capacity.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see.
The every 2 years the cookbook.
I don't know if I can keep up with that.
I don't know if I can handle it. But Tessa, like I said, it's been awesome to chat with you about all of this. I'm going to make sure that I have all of your links and Amazon and your website. All of the links will be in the show notes. But thank you so much for just being part of my world. I really appreciate you. And I'm just wishing all the best things for you to come this year. And I can't wait to see what's next.
Thanks, Leanna. It was so fun talking to you today.